Hey guys, welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, I am your host, Steven. Happy to be joined today by a good friend of the show, Mr. Caleb James of the Arrowhead Live. Caleb, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Yeah, of course. Happy to have you. This, of course, is the second time that you've been on the show so far this year. And it's been kind of a crazy road for the Chiefs since the last time we last spoke. So how has this season been for you, covering the Chiefs and kind of the journey of, going through the 3-4 start and now that you're winning 6 in a row? Kind of update us on just kind of the general feel around Chiefs Kingdom right now.
It's funny because here about 6-7 weeks ago, a lot of Chiefs fans would tell you, the sky is falling. There's no way the Chiefs will ever possibly be able to compete for the division again. They're out of the playoff hunt. They're probably never going to be competitors or contenders ever again. And you go, well, you look at it from like a film side, from an analytics side, you go, well, there's just a couple of adjustments away every game. There are a couple of like little mistakes, turnovers, defensive alignment. Right. There are a couple little things away from those games they lost to them coming out on top. And I think really you've seen a couple of things happen. You've seen, number one, as the Chiefs have gotten, they've been taking care of the football a lot better the last few weeks. They've gotten better at playing small ball on offense. Patrick Mahomes has started to take his checkdowns. They've started to create an effective running game. They've started to use their running backs effectively out of the backfield in the passing game. And defensively, you've seen this team make a couple of personnel adjustments. Now, Brett Veach made a massive one, signing a former Charger, Melvin Ingram, and he has been lights out for the Chiefs in the last 6 weeks since he's been in town. And he's really allowed, everyone to go back to their natural spot on defense. And now you've seen kind of, people were whispering the Chiefs could have a top defense at the beginning of the year. You've seen them work their way into a top 10 scoring defense just in the last few weeks with some of the numbers they've put up. They haven't allowed double digits in the last 3 football games. So, the defensive turnaround, Steve Spagnuolo deserves a lot of credit there. That's kind of where a lot of the momentum has been with the Chiefs, has been on that defensive side of the football.
Yeah, from an outsider's perspective, it really feels like the best Chiefs defense in quite some time. And, Melvin Ingram is playing a huge part in that. And, unfortunately, ahead of this Thursday night matchup, we're going to see both teams kind of being a little banged up, being a little bit on the COVID list. And, of course, Chris Jones is one of those, along with Rashawn Slater. What do you expect the Chiefs to kind of do to counteract the absence of Chris Jones in this one as they try to get after Justin Herbert tomorrow night?
Well, I think you mentioned it. Both of the teams are missing the cornerstone of their offensive line. You guys missing Slater, and the Chiefs are missing Chris Jones. Now, Chris Jones, in the past 5 or 6 weeks, I can't remember, according to like PFF, he has had the most pressures of anyone in the NFL. He's been a complete problem. His inside rush has opened up things for everyone else. But I think the way the Chiefs are going to counteract that is with Rashawn Slater out. I know Storm Norton's going to be starting at right tackle. I'm not sure who the backup left tackle is for you guys right now.
But it's Trey Pipkins.
Okay. I would assume that with Chris Jones out, the Chiefs are going to be relying a lot on Melvin Ingram and Frank Clark to get pressure around the edge. The first time around, Frank Clark was a little bit beat up. He'd been dealing with some hamstring stuff, some off-the-field stuff. Yeah. He wasn't really 100% back in game shape. These last few weeks, it's very clear he's gotten a lot better. Last week, he put a pretty good beating on Colton Miller. The week before that, he beat up Garrett Bowles pretty good. So he's taken on some pretty decent left tackles around the division. And Melvin Ingram, he's been like, defense, to get a good defense going, you just need like a little spark, and then all of a sudden it can start a fire. He's been kind of the spark for the Chiefs defense, just versatility, energy, all the things he used to do with the Chargers that I used to hate. We got a game plan against Melvin Ingram here. We got a game plan against his pass rush or how the Chargers are going to use him. Steve Spagnuolo, he's lined them up all over the place, inside, outside, linebacker position, all over the place. So really for the Chiefs, a team that is predicated on defensive success revolving around rushing the passer, I think they're going to rely on their 2 defensive ends tonight. I also think that maybe, these last few weeks, Spags has laid off the blitzes because they've been able to get pressure with 4. I think this week they might be looking to rev that up just a little bit without Chris Jones in there.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate that, we're not going to see this these two groups be healthy, right? Because I was really looking forward to seeing how Rashawn Slater would handle a Melvin Ingram revenge game. Frank Clark with the way that he's playing. I think you mentioned Jones leading the league in pressures. I think Frank Clark is eighth or ninth or around that area since the Melvin Ingram trade. So it's really unfortunate that we're not going to see that kind of matchup. But of course, there's a lot of other exciting things too to get to. And I think one of the one of the areas was Tyrann Mathieu today posted a picture of him getting an interception over Mike Williams, and he said high point the ball, which I thought was funny. I love those little social media things. So what do you make of the way that the secondary is going to kind of match up with the Chargers receiving core, of course, led by Keenan Allen and Mike Williams?
The Chiefs do have another key player out who missed last game as well, L'Jarius Sneed. His brother was murdered here last Saturday. He missed the game, the next day against the Raiders we had. He's also going to be out this week. I think he just got back into Kansas City yesterday. Short week, a lot of COVID stuff going on. I think they thought it'll be just best to give him time off to, kind of grieve with his family and to make sure he's right emotionally. That brought Tyrann Mathieu down. He played a lot in the slot, a lot around the line of scrimmage. Now, the Chiefs also, they've got Charvarius Ward. He's a guy they've been comfortable with. He's been a starter. He's had some up and downs throughout his career in Kansas City. I think they're comfortable enough with him going against Williams, going against Keenan Allen. The Chiefs also got Rashad Fenton. Now, Fenton got beat bad in the week 3 matchup. He got beat. I believe Williams scored a touchdown over him, just kind of a size and height thing. So I'd be looking for them maybe to give some help there since Fenton's not really a bigger body. But really, it's going to be a typical Steve Spagnuolo game plan for going against a team with good receivers. They're going to try to body him up at the line of scrimmage. They're just going to have to mix their zones and man defense a little bit better with Sneed out, because Sneed is kind of that X factor guy. He can play inside, outside. They can line him up all over the place. But even if it means Daniel Sorensen's going to have to be on the field a little bit more, that's probably going to be the case as well. That's not necessarily what Chiefs fans want to hear, but the Chiefs are real big. They want to play the best 11 possible, not necessarily the best at any specific position group. Mike Hughes, he's been a guy who's struggled. He lost his starting job actually after the week 3 matchup versus the Chargers the first time. He has made a resurgence here these last few weeks, actually got AFC Defensive Player of the Year. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, 9 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles in the win over the Raiders. I think probably the best play of that was he trailed Hunter Renfrow pretty good. Renfrow got the football, but he was able to go in there and club it out, and Mathieu recovered it. So he's a guy that's been playing hot right now. So, I think the Chiefs are going to try to limit some of the damage. I know their defense is obviously hurt without Jones. Jones, their best cornerback and their best defensive lineman are going to be out this game. Willie Gay is also going to be out on the defensive side of the ball. He's been a young guy, didn't play much in the first matchup versus Los Angeles. He's been another catalyst. He's been kind of the guy for the Chiefs that when you go against a mobile quarterback, when you're going against running backs to get the ball out of the backfield, he's kind of been the stopper for that. That's going to be hard with Herbert and Eckler this week also. So, as much as it comes down to the defense, I think this week, like I think I was predicting even before some of these COVID issues, it's going to come down to Mahomes and Herbert, really.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And, I think both of these teams are so driven by the two quarterbacks. And of course, every team is, right? But I want to get your thoughts here because, you look at the Chiefs, box scores and you see a ton of points against the Raiders and they're kind of struggling to manufacture points at the level that we are used to seeing out of the Chiefs. Why do you think that is that they've kind of struggled to put up a high amount of points against teams not named the Raiders?
I think a lot of it has been turnovers. If you look back at the Chiefs games, even throughout this win streak, you can go back and you can pick out key turnovers versus the Dallas Cowboys, drop passes against the Denver Broncos. There's been a lot of that in there, just bad decision making. But really, from where the Chiefs are at now, from where they were at week 3, it's a completely different offense. Week 3, every pass they're trying to throw is 10 yards down the field at least. They're throwing everything past the sticks. They're not really trying to check the ball down too much. Teams have gotten better at that. The Chargers, they've built their roster trying to figure out a way to stop the Chiefs. That's why they've gone after, that's why they've got Joey Bosa in there, because the key to beat the Chiefs is you got to get pressure with 4. And, they've built up their secondary, they've gotten better across the board at that. But the Chiefs, they've gotten better at playing small ball, and not a lot of teams can do this. Not a lot of teams can change the way they play middle of the season, because now we've gotten to the point where the Chiefs' best receiving target in the game might be their backup running back, Darrell Williams, who's put up some big games the past few weeks. He's kind of an X factor guy who's going to be flying under the radar again this week. And it could be stuff as simple as just a leak out of the backfield. People are trying to double team Kelsey or Hill, so they're just not going to be paying attention to him. The Chiefs have gotten good at throwing the ball to their running backs. I think a lot of it, though, is that they've also gotten slightly more conservative in what they do. Andy Reid's not just going to let them go out there and run and gun like they used to, even last season, where, I'll say, for example, against Denver, there were 65 seconds left in the half. With Patrick Mahomes, you assume they're going to try to go out there and try to throw the ball all over the place and try to at least get a field goal before halftime. But now you head into this year, Patrick Mahomes has had more passes dropped than any quarterback in the NFL. He's had some ups and downs. The Chiefs' offensive line, they've been fairly solid throughout the season. They've still got some issues at the tackles. I think the tackles have gotten a lot better as the season has progressed. But you're seeing them play a different style of football. But one thing I will say, the Chiefs' interior offensive line has brought a physical presence to the offense that I think a lot of teams around the NFL are being taken by surprise. There's a clip going around this week of Trey Smith mauling Max Crosby, a guy who I would assume both fan bases, Chargers and Chiefs, really don't care for that much right now. But there's a couple of videos going on at him, Creed Humphrey, and Joe Thuney. They have opened up the inside run game for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams, and really even the screen game, because we didn't see, the first time the Chiefs played the Chargers, we saw one pass to the running back, and it ended up being a touchdown. It was well executed to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then they went these long streaks. They didn't see any. And now Mahomes, he's completing 8 or 9 passes a week, just check downs out of the backfield to guys, which that's what you got to do. Every quarterback goes through some of those phases. Every quarterback goes through that tough time. Not every ball can be a home run ball. I think Mahomes, being the aggressive guy he is, he's realized that now. And they've started to kind of open up other areas of their offense that they've gotten better at, which hopefully will in turn reopen back up some of the deep plays.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the interior trio, and I think that really is probably the area that the Chiefs have improved the most roster-wise over the last few years, where you bring in a guy like Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joe Thuney. Thuney's not necessarily like a mauler like the other two, but he can get after it as well. So it's been from an offensive line fan perspective, it's been fun to watch those guys for sure.
Yeah, Joe Thuney he's been elite in pass pro this year. He's one of the top rated guards. Creed Humphrey is going to be, him and Rashawn Slater, two of the top. Him, Rashawn Slater, and Trey Smith. That's really two of the, that's three of three in my opinion for 3 rookie offensive linemen. At their collective position. I think Trey Smith has clearly been the best rookie guard. Creed Humphrey is maybe the best center in the NFL right now. Rashawn Slater's clearly been the best rookie tackle. He's fighting to become the best tackle in the NFL. It's a shame Slater's not going to play because there's just so much talent. It's a fun game to watch if you're in the DOL play.
Yeah, I know. It's been really funny because, it's been a long time since the Chargers have had a left tackle of his caliber. And, I'm sitting there looking at, he gave up 3 pressures against the Broncos and 3 against the Bengals. And it was like, that was his worst stretch of his career so far. But, we have weeks where Storm Norton and Sam Tevy and all these guys that we were used to seeing are allowing 6 pressures one game, 5 pressures the next game. So it's been fun to see how far that the Chargers have come at that position. We talked a lot about the Chiefs, and I want to get your tier about kind of your perspective, how the Chiefs can come out on Thursday Night Football with a win tomorrow night.
Well, I think that we saw a little bit of the formula the first time the Chiefs played the Chargers. I think they're going to come out and try to run the football a little bit, and I think the Chargers are going to be expecting that because Clyde Edwards-Helaire did have one of his few 100-yard game seasons against the Chargers, in week 3. And the Chargers, they've gotten a little bit better as the year has gone on at stopping the run. It's still not like a strong point for their team. I think Kenneth Murray's playing more reps as an edge player now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
more
Yeah.
than inside. He's not really developed in that inside guy.
No,
They've
and it's
wanted
not
him.
pretty on the edge either.
Yeah, you got Joey Bosa. That's the thing I've been telling people is the Chiefs could change their play style like this because the other teams in the division, they're all geared up to, stop pass, but they can't really, stop the run as well. They're not
Mhm.
as effective. The Chargers, I think, are a good example of that. But what the Chiefs did well is they came out and they beat the Raiders so bad that the Chargers aren't really going to have a ton to go off of that because, it just looks so perfect and so flawless. But I think this week we see a lot of run action plays from the Chiefs, and I think we start to see them try to get that downfield passing game going again because what I think's been lost to some of the national media in the blowout win versus the Raiders, and I do know it's the Raiders, but the Raiders did try to play some second, they tried to play some more cover two downfield. They tried to play some more zone defense as compared to the first matchup. Mahomes still hit a couple of deep balls on them, and one of them was just because the offensive line, they shut down Ngakoue, they shut down Crosby for large portions of the game. He gets a rollout and throws a ball. It was a 48-yard gain. The ball probably traveled 65 yards in the air. He's throwing it across the field.
Mm.
So I think that they're going to take conservative play calling. I think they're going to try to run the ball. I'd be looking for probably, some plays to the running backs out of the backfield as well, some passes. But I think at some point in the game, it's a big game. The AFC West is on the line. The Chiefs are going to have to look at their guys. They're going to have to look at Kelsey. They're going to have to look at Hill. And they're going to have to look at Patrick Mahomes to try to get the ball to them because they can play the check down ball as much as they want. And I'm hoping that they're able to establish the run game enough and they can win the line of scrimmage to where it makes it easier to where maybe the Chargers have to step up, son. But really, cut down on the turnovers. That was what I thought was a huge key the first time in the first matchup between the teams. The
Yeah.
Chiefs turned the ball over a lot. They turned the ball over in crucial in parts of the field, headed in to score in the red zone a couple of times. And then Mahomes, just trying to force that late interception. And that's kind of how I see them trying to play on offense. I think they're going to come in here and be a little more conservative like they've been in the past. But I think if they're able to just take what take what the defense gives them, they should be okay. And that should open up a deep play eventually.
Yeah, you're talking a lot about what the Chiefs are potentially thinking ahead of this one, and I feel the same way about the Chargers. Granted, some of that is because Rashawn Slater is out, but it's going to be an interesting dynamic in this one. You have two high-powered offenses, and I think both of them could reasonably come out trying to establish the run, be a little bit more conservative, keep the other quarterback off the field somewhat. But I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see this one. You have primetime Herbert is becoming a thing. We obviously know that primetime Mahomes is a thing. And like you mentioned, all the marbles for the AFC West potentially on the line. So we'll get you out of here on this. Your final thoughts on the matchup, and if you wouldn't mind, how you're kind of leaning in towards of a final score prediction.
It's an excellent matchup. You can talk about a lot of young quarterbacks in the NFL. This is the premier quarterback matchup for the foreseeable future, 10 to 15 seasons. This is it right here. And this is their first matchup in primetime football. Terrible it's on a Thursday night. Terrible all the stuff going on at COVID. We're not going to get to see either team at full health. And now I see Austin Eckler, maybe those guys him and Derwin James are game time decisions. Typical Thursday night football stuff at this point in the season. But I'm going to go lean on the Chiefs. I think that they've learned enough this season about who they are, about, they can't take any game for granted. They have to not be able to making as many mental mistakes. I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. I'm going to go 30-27. I think it's going to be a very close game. That's where I'm leaning on this one. It's a must-win game. This is a game the Chiefs have been in before against a couple of teams. They've been in some big primetime matchups. The Chargers, they haven't quite been into this game, or they haven't quite lived up to their expectations in this game, but it should be a good one. This will be, I believe, the Chiefs' first time playing in that new stadium down there in Los Angeles. So hopefully we've got some fans headed down there to make some noise. But, I'm picking the Chiefs. I'm going to roll with them this week as usual, of course, but it's going to be a quarterback matchup, man. You can talk about all the stuff, all the playing conservative. What did the game come down to last time? Justin Herbert completed passes in the fourth quarter. Patrick Mahomes threw a couple of interceptions and some bad passes.
No, I think of all the matchups where it's like the quarterback matters most, this is definitely the one. I can't wait to see how it pans out. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can Chargers fans find you if they want some good Chiefs intel ahead of the matchup tomorrow night?
All right, if you guys are looking to get some information about the Chiefs, you can follow me on Twitter at CJ Scoobs. Make sure to go check out the website that I write for, do my podcast for, at Arrowhead Live. I usually do live Twitter spaces before, after the games. So usually share a lot of content via that. Got some other podcasts called Chiefs Take that I do. You can check that out also. But yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thank you for joining the show again, and we'll be in touch down the road.